Hi everyone, welcome to eLearnChat, where talk, it's knowledge. And today we've got with us somebody that you know, you probably all love her too. Lisa Goldstein, she's joining us today as a co-host. She's subbing for Leslie Price, who couldn't make it today. It was just too late her time. She's in England and we're running a little later today. But if you want to check Leslie out, she's at www.learnappeal.com. She'd love to see you there. And Lisa's with Nielsen. You probably all know of Nielsen. They're watching us right now and rating this show. No, I'm just kidding. Lisa's a good friend, and she was kind enough to join us kind of at last moment, too. So we really appreciate, as always, coming on and blessing our show. You always do a great job.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me here. It's fun to be here with you.
Our pleasure. So let's get started. And we are back, and oh, look who's there, Karen Moloney from the land down under. You realize how hard it is to turn the image upside down when they come on the show, because it's the other part of the world.
Give me a headache.
We always tell people that. But anyway, Karen's with us from eLearnChat. She's out of Sydney, Australia, and pleasure to have you back on. It's been too long since you've been on. So,
I know. I was looking at it the other day. I think it's been a couple of years, but thank you so much for having me back on. I appreciate it. Lovely to be here.
Our pleasure. Now, you were telling us a little bit pre-show that you've changed a little bit. Last time, your company was called eLearningExperts. You were doing something a little bit different. And now, eLearningExperts, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so eLearningExperts, we were a projects business creating e-learning. We were an instructional design agency. I've been doing that work now for, I don't know, all up as an instructional designer for about 26 years. And I've got to a point in my career where I just feel like I want to start giving back a little bit more and doing some things for our community down under. So we've created eLearningExperts as an independent resource portal. It's all free and ungated content. So we're looking to curate content and essentially be that go-to place for our community where they can come and find information on vendors to work with. They can get resources on podcasts to listen to, reports to read, L&D TV shows to watch. I think you're on my list, actually. So
thank you.
Yeah, and we're kind of helping the vendors on the other side of that as well with their marketing messages to sort of create a nice, safe place and a platform for them to share their expertise with people where they don't feel like they're being sold to.
That's great. Lisa, you did something similar to that. Was it L&D Global at one point?
Yeah, we did L&D Global events with Leslie for a while, and we were trying to showcase stories of how people landed inside of L&D and help people to get started. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of dedication, and if you've got the time, Karen, that's fantastic. And did I hear you say this right? Did you say that you do this as a way to give back? Do you do this for free?
Yeah, well, the content that we are pulling together and all the resources for the community are free and ungated. Where we get our revenue from is from working with vendors and helping them with their marketing.
That's brilliant. So,
yeah.
And do you have good success stories that you can share of how you've impacted people's lives lately?
Not just yet. We haven't been going that long. Okay. In September last year, we actually launched, so we actually sort of changed the name to eLearningExperts, and we kind of launched our first initiative, which was an events calendar, because we found like people were looking for professional development events, but outside of the industry organisations and associations, there was no one place where they could go to find those things. So we set up our calendar, and people can list those events for free now. So there's a lot more opportunity for people to go to sort of different networking events or workshops and things. So that's where they're coming to find that information. So we also have launched a podcast called Learning Uncut, which launched in June this year. So in that we're showcasing case studies and stories from L&D professionals in Australia and New Zealand, which is getting some great feedback. So yeah, look, I think at the moment we've just been kind of working out what is it that we need to be providing to the community. directory of vendors was a big thing, because again, I think it's whoever's got the biggest Google budget is the ones that tend to get found, or those who understand how LinkedIn works. So we wanted to kind of even out the playing field there and give everybody an opportunity to get themselves heard, I suppose, when people are looking for vendors. So we're kind of, there's lots of things that are just getting off the ground. I'd love to come back next year and talk about some success stories, though, if you'll have me back.
Sure.
So does it feel like you're mostly concentrating on consultants who are out there trying to figure this out on their own, or are you also targeting instructional designers who work for corporations? Who's really your audience?
Yeah, so we've got the market for learning experts is a double-sided market. So one side of that is your L&D professional who's looking for tools, resources, career support, guidance, anything that they need essentially to do their job and do the job better. On the other side of that, the paying market are L&D vendors. So there might be individual consultants looking to sort of raise their profiles and get more exposure in the industry, or there might just be L&D businesses. And the ones that we're working with mostly are kind of small to mid-sized businesses. I think that the bigger ones have a marketing department, have a budget, and kind of know what they're doing. I think it's the smaller and more independent people that we're trying to help.
That's fantastic. That sounds like a really fantastic cause. And I have more questions, Rick. Is it okay if I keep going?
Oh, go ahead. You guys actually have a lot in common, which I didn't realize.
I love what you're doing. So I feel like our world is such a big space, and there's so much you have to be good at in order to be a really good instructional designer, or any of our related stuff in this field. So what are you most passionate about? What do you think that instructional designers need the most support on to make sure that they absolutely excel in their role?
Look, I think that's a really great question. I think understanding that you don't always have to be good at everything. I think some of the most successful designers I've worked with have been focused in a particular space. So that might be VR, it might be using storyline, it might be just instructional design. Maybe they don't touch any tools at all. So I think having something that helps you kind of differentiate yourself is good. But I think probably a part of the thing that drives the work that I'm doing, and Michelle Ockers as well, who's my co-host for the podcast, we agree very much that the reason that we're doing those things is just to help empower people in the industry, sort of take a leap and try something new. I think we've all kind of been stuck doing the same things for such a long time, but don't really know how to take that next step. And business is moving really quickly, and we need to, step up the pace and keep up with them. So what we're trying to do is kind of empower people by providing them with the tools and the resources that they need to actually take action, as opposed to being another site that has a blog where everybody's talking about what we should be doing, and here's the 3 things that you need to think about when you were doing video, etc. It's like, okay, if you're doing video, here are the tools, here's how to use them, here's some people that have done the thing before, and here's why you just need to try it, run a pilot. So we're really about getting people to take action and take that next step. And I think really once people can kind of be brave enough to do that, they will feel empowered to try new things. And I think that's what's going to make them really great designers. But I think it's just having the confidence in themselves to try something different, and that it will be okay. It doesn't have to be perfect and polished. We can work in a more agile way to create things and try things. And we're seeing some great success stories of that through the podcast at the moment.
That sounds fabulous. So you came from a space where for years and years you were an instructional designer. What do you think that your strongest suits were? What do you think made you really good at your role when you were in that role?
I'm a bit of an organizer. So the project management side of things and keeping things on track. But I think for me initially, when I work with clients, the thing that I think was the key to the success of the business was we spent a lot of time working out what needed to happen. So we asked lots of questions. I'm a big questions person. And we would delve right into, why we were doing what we were doing. We wouldn't take any work. We want to make sure that the clients understand that what they were doing, that there was a definite need for it, and that what we would do would solve a problem, and then how we would measure, the solution going forward. We would involve everybody in those conversations up front. So it's really about that, think rather than just somebody saying, here's a need, let's have some training, and we go, okay, then let's do that. We would take a step back and go, okay, so what's going on? What do we need to achieve? Who needs to be involved? And just take a bit more time in that phase initially, in that analysis phase. And we found then that a lot of our projects ran really smoothly because we all knew what we had to do, when and why we were there. So I think for me, yes, I have the instructional design background, but I think as my career progressed, I kind of moved up to that bigger picture thinking around the solution as a whole, as opposed to the detail of the storyboards.
I imagine because you were so good at that up front to make sure that you had the right measuring stick of what performance were you specifically trying to help them drive, you probably then were good at the back end to help make sure that they had the right measuring stick as they were measuring change afterwards, probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big stats person as well. I studied stats when I was at high school, so I was kind of like, I love the numbers, and it's like, okay, so what are we doing? Give us the thing here, and then we'll measure the thing here, and then we'll do it again in 3 months and 6 months and 12 months. And so and we won a lot of awards that way because we were able to prove that the solutions we implemented worked. Because it's lovely to go to all these award ceremonies and see the fabulous things that people are creating, but sometimes you kind of go like, I don't know, I think you could have probably had just as much or even bigger impact with less fluff, bells and whistles. I think sometimes we overthink it a bit.
And Rick, I bet you'll agree that that's so refreshing to hear because we always see so many FYI mountains. You need customer service training. Here's a week of training for you, instead of really looking for the root cause of what's really causing the poor customer service.
Yeah, a lot of times the biggest problem that we always see is a lot of the instructional designers don't have a business background. So when they're brought into business situations, they're not sure what to ask. It's not that they don't know how to do their jobs. They don't know how to ask the right questions to do their jobs better. And that's one thing we see a lot, the lack of business expertise. And we hear this a lot too, where we hear managers say, I don't want my people being SMEs. Yeah, but they kind of need to be. In other words, maybe they don't want to be SMEs right up front, but as they're learning and growing, you don't want to have to repeat the same thing over and over and over as a SME to the same person. They expect you to learn it. And so, the more you learn and the more you can apply that and make better use of it, the better you'll be. And like you said, Karen, it gets you to rise to the next level.
Or like what Karen was saying earlier, even if you can't be a SME, at least ask the right questions so you can start to become that SME.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think with some of our clients as well, thinking about, some of them weren't all big corporations. Some of them were sort of small to medium businesses that were engaging in e-learning for, whatever reason, to educate clients or even to sell as a package. So thinking about, the commercial aspect of how can we repurpose this content for other uses. Like, so can we, when we're doing videos, rather than doing long videos, do short snippets so that we've got, and then kind of piece them together. So we've got little teaser things we can put out as marketing or as tasters for people or to use as pilots or whatever it might be. So it's thinking about what other use could this content have outside of, the initial brief. And that was a really interesting conversation and way of looking at things, and clients generally had never had that experience before with an L&D business.
Well, wouldn't you say that if you look at L&D from 10, 20 years ago, and you said you've been in the industry a while, I know you're both young in terms of your ages, but you've been around for a while in this industry. I've been around way too long. So, things have changed, but a lot of departments haven't changed yet, where they look at how people learn, and really, if you want to look at the neuropsychological, physical ways people learn, especially adults, they don't learn well in 1, 2, 3 hour segments. That's not a real good adult learning model. 5, 10, 15 minutes is much better. And a lot of training is still hours and hours. Here's your compliance course, 2 hours.
Well, and how often have you heard the joke of how we as modern human beings learn in our real lives, and then we come to work and we're told this is how you're going to learn, even though you would never dream of learning like that in your own personal life.
Yeah, it's true.
No, and I think that's probably where we need to take notice of what people are doing. We need to engage with those learners more. I think there's just been so much kind of push of content onto them over the years, and they've all got one of these now, and they are doing this stuff for themselves. So we've been talking to some people who've done some interesting stuff around distributed authorship, and around, like user-generated content, letting people, pull their own materials into the LMS, because people are doing this stuff outside of L&D. I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that we are the authority and we are the only place that people learn from in an organisation. People create their own processes and their own checklists and their own workflows, and there's so much value just sitting in drawers or stuck on walls in an organisation. If you can curate that and pull it all together and give it and bring the value as an L&D person, as an instructional designer, to sort of have some underlying design process behind all that. If you can pull all of those things together and curate that information, you've got some incredible learnings that can happen there.
Karen, this is so interesting because, when you talk about your resource, I kind of hear you say you're catering to maybe people who are new instructional designers, perhaps, and helping them to get started. But it's kind of interesting that you're talking about this shift, because I think for people who have been in this industry and been an instructional designer for a decade or two, they listen to what you're saying now and they say, that sounds great, but you've got me as a deer in headlights. I don't even know how I would change. I only know how to make 20-minute e-learning programs. I don't know how to make anything else.
Yeah, and that's why doing things like the podcast and the other things that we've got in the pipeline around the blog posts, we're going to be doing lots more with video, exposing people who have done these things. So we can say, okay, rather than just saying, well, you need to be curating, we can say, well, here are some people that have done that. This is how they did it, and this is where you can contact them and learn from them. And hopefully that will start to get a bit of traction.
That sounds fantastic. I think I'm going to have to watch some of those myself.
Thank you. No pressure.
So what do you think is next? So how do you continue to grow the residency of bringing people to your site? And, how do you imagine changing people's lives going forward with what you're doing?
Okay. The whole point of the portal was just to make things easier for people. So I think there's so much noise out there and there's so much information, it's really overwhelming. So to be that sort of one-stop shop. So essentially when you come to Learning Experts, it's about finding an expert, which is our directory that you're showing on screen there, or becoming an expert, which is all of the little resources. We're looking for contributors. We're kind of mostly focused on this region, but not exclusively. In terms of contributors, but we're just looking for people to help us find those great resources to help people. So at the moment we've kind of focused on things that are going to help them find out information, so shows like this and great podcasts and great blogs, etc. But we are going to be delving a bit more into some streams of there's been a few things done down here around what does the L&D professional of the future look like. So we're kind of looking at those key characteristics and then focusing our curation around those. So we're still working out the how-tos for that, because there's a knowledge management base that's going to be huge. But yeah, not sure exactly how we're going to do that yet, but that's generally the focus. So I want people to sort of use that as the one-stop shop. If you're looking for anything to help you, come to the site. If you can't find what you're looking for, tell us what you're looking for and we'll go find it. Because we've got a great network and yeah.
I love that matchmaking service. I think that's a brilliant idea, because I think, if we wanted to find a mentor, somebody who is good at something, we wouldn't know where to start other than Googling it.
Yeah. And again, things like, mentors, but we've got things in there like industry associations and membership things that you can join. Most of those run mentor programs and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of people that just even people that are in the industry. I still find people that don't engage on LinkedIn or Twitter. They only go to LinkedIn when they're looking for a job. And I find LinkedIn is just like the number one source for me of what's going on in our world and who's doing what and saying what and sharing what. So I think we just need to kind of engage with some more people and get them on board with with what's going on there.
I think the biggest problem with LinkedIn right now is that there is an onslaught of people wanting to friend, or not befriend, but to connect with someone, and everybody's trying to sell you something. It's all marketing people, and it's just, after a while it gets kind of tiring. So I don't know about you folks, but I become a lot less willing to just say accept. I look at profiles now before I just accept, whereas before I go, oh, sure, whatever. Now it's like, oh no, what now? And you can always tell because you hit accept, and within 1 minute, here's the sales pitch. It's like, and it wouldn't be bad if it wasn't the same sales pitch from the same marketing people trying to sell you something you don't even need. And it's not even training related or anything. It's just selling something. And so that's one thing I think that LinkedIn's probably struggling with a little bit. But it's a great platform on the whole. I like it. It's I don't go on as much on Twitter or Facebook anymore. I prefer something more like LinkedIn, though we're on all of them. I notice personally I don't go as much. Do you guys still do a lot of social media?
I feel spread thin. I don't know about you, Karen, but I kind of feel like I've got to check my inbox in Twitter, check my inbox in LinkedIn, all the different communities that exist out there now. I feel spread thin. I don't know where to turn sometimes when I've got an extra 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I have just I've got a bit more focused lately. I think Facebook for me is not something I use for work. I am connected to some people on there. I think probably more to the fact that we just kind of know each other through work, but we don't talk work there. I use LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. But I have turned off my notifications on my phone and on my desktop and stuff. So I think I've got a bit more controlled about the time that I spend there. I have, focused half an hour a day where I go in and read things and contribute and share. Twitter is something probably I kind of check in at when I've got spare time. So if I'm waiting for a train or something like that. We do share stuff on Twitter, and I have found that it's actually a really good place for that quick sort of knowledge share. But thinking about investing the time in it, it's difficult. I mean, we do, and we will be as learning experts having sharing things on there every day. On Twitter and LinkedIn. I think really just so that we can catch those different times of day when people are active on the platforms, because I think that's the thing, is if you're not there when they're there, then it's a waste of time. But I think video is something that I did an experiment with recently. It was really to get over my own fear of being on video. So I kind of initiated a bit of a challenge with the community down here, and we all kind of posted videos of ourselves working out loud for 30 days. So it was cool. If you want to check it out, it's search either on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can look at hashtag LDVid30. And I think I was really interested. And you
posted that mostly on LinkedIn?
Yeah, look, I posted on LinkedIn and Twitter every day. We had lots of challenges, but the point of it was to get over my fear of video, but to be able to find another way to communicate with my network, but also to show people that there's a lot of value to be had by using video as a means of working out loud. And we had it was a really interesting exercise. We had a great response, but what I found after that was that the connections that I was getting on LinkedIn, and the people starting to follow me on Twitter, were of better quality. So they were more industry people as opposed to the random requests. I don't get so many of those anymore. But it was nice to actually, I think what people said, the biggest thing that came out of it for them was that it was, again, connecting people with people as opposed to profiles and profiles. So we're looking to do a bit more with video, because it was a really, you can write a LinkedIn post and get 40 views. Some of those videos were getting 2,500, so the reach was quite incredible.
We're seeing quite an explosion on YouTube. But do you do much there? YouTubers is a new noun, or of a new group of people who are really exploding and making that their career, actually.
Yeah, look, I was posting a lot of my videos onto my YouTube channel as a way of publishing them to other channels as well. But YouTube is something that we're going to be doing more of for the industry, in terms of sourcing videos and making that a really great kind of go-to channel. Because I think that, again, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and people don't really use that in our industry as a way of learning themselves. And I found some fantastic videos and things through there that if we can curate all those and pull those together would be a great resource.
Yeah, I find it fascinating that YouTube has started their own premium subscription, trying to follow a little bit of a Netflix model where they're trying to, game that membership and that income, because there's so many different streams of entertainment there.
Yes, absolutely.
That's interesting. Now, Karen, what made you nervous about being on camera?
Oh, I think the same things that everybody gets nervous about, like, hearing yourself, seeing yourself, because it's never quite what you imagine it's going to be.
You have movie star looks. Take advantage of them.
Oh, thank you. Well, watch some of my videos. I think I did one of them 2 or 3 days in. I was actually quite comfortable. I think I had no makeup. I'd just come out of a swimming lesson with my son, so I had bad hair, no makeup. But the point was that, the information I was sharing was valuable. So that's what made it important. And people don't care about your hair. If you're sharing something that's of value to them, they don't care if there's a bit of wind in the background, or you don't look great, or you might stutter a little bit. It's okay. So yeah, I think that was.
It is, and people really want natural. They just want you to be yourself and do whatever you're doing. And I notice on YouTube, the more pretentious you are, probably the less anybody will watch you. They like people making mistakes. They don't want perfection. No,
and I think again that it's a big issue with the industry is that for years we have been used to having 6 months to a year to create a program, and when it goes out it's all polished, because if we get it wrong, then the people do the wrong things, and then it's bad for the organisation. But I think the world of business has changed and acts in a more agile way now, so I think we just have to kind of take that on board and start shooting videos on your phone of people in the workshop doing what they're doing, or whatever it is that you need to be sharing. Like, you don't need a massive budget, you don't need a cast of thousands, and you don't need 6 months. We've got so many tools available to us now to create fantastic learning that's useful, that's in the moment. And I think we just all have to kind of get over ourselves a little bit. So that was kind of the point of the exercise, was all right, I'm going to throw myself out there with no makeup on and just see what happens. And the support I got was incredible, but authenticity was something that came out as one of the big things around why people were engaging with those videos, because it was just me.
And it feels like that sometimes a complaint from stakeholders is that the content takes so long to create. So if you're less worried about, first I'm going to go into the professional audio booth and do my voiceovers and then come back and time it up to my content, if instead you're just willing to turn on your camera, record what you've got, it's not necessarily in the perfect sound booth or whatever, now you've got content that you can create faster.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'll tell you one thing, Lisa, that's real important. People will tolerate bad video, but boy, they don't tolerate bad sound.
Yeah, I hear you. So even if it's not like the perfect recording environment, you do have to make sure that there aren't dogs barking in the background and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. Or even worse, the plosives, when you hear the kind of explosion, they hate that. But they don't care about bad video. It's amazing how forgiving people are of video, but not when the audio is bad. So that's the only thing you have to really be careful with. Make sure your audio is good enough, and you're not exploding their ears, or, like you said, a lot of noise or air conditioning noise that's drowning out the voice. As long as you're clear, everybody's happy. That's good. Well, guess what? We are at the end of our time. Doesn't it go fast? 30 minutes, like that. But Karen, yes, we'd love to have you back on, and not wait so long next time. That was our fault.
I'm going to put that in my diary and make sure I chase up on that. And
never feel like, if you ever want to say anything, give us a call. We'll just get you right on. So usually we're trying to drag people into the show, but if you want to come on, just call. We're really easy.
I could talk all day. I could come back every week.
Sounds good.
It's so nice meeting you, Karen. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you too. I have to connect and catch up after.
Yeah,
sounds great.
And Lisa, I'll send you guys an email so you have each other's emails.
Thank you.
That sounds great. And for you folks watching, I don't think we even checked the chat room. Probably nobody's on the chat room. But if you're watching in the chat room, sorry we missed you. And if you are watching the recording, please subscribe. And also, we'll put information on how to get a hold of both of these wonderful ladies and extend your network a little bit. So anyway, well, thanks again for coming on, Karen, and Lisa. Again, as always, a pleasure to have you on. And we will see you all next week. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a great day.